So we're on our way. Well, that sounds like a good time to start. Looks like it's 2:30, 2:31. Can't quite tell what time it is here. 2:30, right on the button. Call the meeting to order, please, of the Parks and Environment Committee meeting, April 7th, 2026. I'd like to note that Devon Barnes is unable to attend, and Councillor Jordison, they both send their regrets. We acknowledge with respect that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Lowingan speaking people, and we are honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of the Songhees and Coushatta nations. Before we adopt the agenda, just note there's a request to reorder the agenda so that we're moving item 5.2 up, switching it. And so we'll begin with 5.2 and then move to 5.1 following. Is there a mover to adopt the agenda as amended? And we don't need seconds. Motion. Then the agenda of the Parks and Environment Committee meeting on April 7th, 2026 be adopted as amended. All in favor? That's passed. Carried. Adoption of the minutes. We have the minutes from the February 2nd, 2026 meeting. Before we consider adoption, any errors or omissions to note? Anyone? Ask for a motion to adopt, to approve the minutes rather. Pamela? All those in favor? Carried. Right, go next. Heather Power, by the way, our deputy corporate officer, kindly puts together the dialogue for me. All I have to do is read it, and I struggle with that. But I'm going so far. So thank you, Heather, for that. Great deal of support around City Hall for the jobs we do here. They lay out the water so nicely. All our name tags, everything's ordered. So here we go. We have an opportunity now for public participation. Anyone in the public like to participate, speak? I'm looking at you, Joel. I think you're the only public in the room.
This is items numerically, I wasn't sure. So this is for dealing with the biodiversity conservation strategy.
We'll be starting though. No, where we decided.
I just need to speak.
Well, you can speak. Sorry, Joel. You could speak now, or if you would rather you wait until the diversity, you could speak. Let's do that.
Right.
Let's do that because we switched the agenda. That's right. So perhaps just wave when it's no, Heather, if you could remind me, thank you, because it's easy to forget that you're in the queue. So let's move on to new business, and I guess we're coming up against item 5.2. First, Colwood Waterfront Multi-Use Pathway Project Update. So that's a long title for a presentation. We're pleased to welcome Gord Bouvellier and Manager of Parks and to present the Colwood Waterfront Multi-Use Pathway Project Update to the committee. And I believe you've got Ryan with you. So if you'd like to introduce, thank you.
Yeah, so today we have the Colwood Waterfront Multi-Use Pathway update for the committee's information, and the presenter will be Ryan Campeau, who's our capital lead on this project.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I'd like you to proceed. However, I'll just mention that if people would like to keep comments or anything you want to contribute in response to the presentation, we can do that once Ryan's finished. Thank you.
Excuse me. Good afternoon. As mentioned, I'm presenting an update on the Waterfront Multi-Use Pathway Project. So in September 2025, Council directed staff to move forward with the nature-based Green Shores approach as outlined in the Colwood Waterfront Stewardship Plan. This design stays within the approved budget of $6.7 million. And I'm pleased to report that the revised 50% design is now well underway and or it's now complete, and the detailed design is well underway. The project team, we have a specialized project team in place led by Paul DeGrief, the original author of this CWSP. 49th Parallel Engineering is serving as our civil lead, and we also have dedicated consultants to ensure all the other regulatory standards are being met. Sure. Oh, thanks. Button's not working. Try the other. Thank you. All right, here are some highlights that are being developed as part of the detailed design process, just to give a better example than what you see in the 50% design set that was attached to the agenda. Just some architectural renderings there of gathering places and cross section. This is one area worth noting as part of the project. So the Green Shores approach for the Milburn section, which is pictured here, which is the frontage road at the south end of the project, often referred to as the duplex driveway. So the previous engineering centered design proposed to raise this frontage road by about 1 meter in elevation, including a substantial riprap revetment for storm protection, works that would have exceeded the entire project budget. In contrast, the current design for this location focuses on surface level improvements, acknowledging that storm events will continue to deposit debris on the section approximately 5 times per year. Current management, how we deal with it now, involves temporary road closures and debris removal by your public works crews. It's an operational task that's considered minor in nature and is only been anecdotally we don't formally track it, it's just anecdotally tracked. However, if maintenance standards escalate, comprehensive review will be undertaken using the Green Shores hierarchy for nature-based coastal adaptation. The current coastal adaptation strategy, excuse me, for this section could be described as accommodate or relax, and future conditions may require a shift towards other levels in the hierarchy. Next is the permitting updates. So by keeping the works of the high water mark, we streamlined our environmental permitting window from 12 months down to 4 to 6 months. And an archaeological impact assessment is also underway to inform our site alteration permit application. Moving to our engagement strategy, there have been some updates since the publishing of this report regarding the proposed pilot project. So although preliminary discussions indicated this demonstration was achievable, recent coordination with the BC Archaeological Branch has confirmed that provincial permitting timelines will extend well beyond the spring planting window. So this is resulting in the cancellation of the pilot project. So while we don't have the pilot project this spring, we are still excited about our other engagement tools, specifically about our on-site pop-up event, and digital upgrade updates to keep the community informed as we move towards a full build-out. Here's the timeline. So basically, we're currently in the permitting detailed design phase, which runs until January 2027. And tendering construction scheduled for February through November 2027. And this keeps us on track to meet our UBCM grant completion deadline in January 2028. So sorry, this is the staff recommendation from the council meeting that referred to here. So that's probably not relevant to this. Thank you very much. We're happy to answer any questions and receive any comments that you might have. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Ryan and Gord. Any questions or comments from the committee? I have a light, ladies and gentlemen. I can't even tell who's pushed the button. Kimberly.
Hi, thanks for the update. I was curious about the plans with the beachlands for the construction of the other part that's going to connect to, especially because Royal Bay area is growing so much, and there's kind of a need to get people over to that area without having to drive their cars over. So the quicker we can get some biking and, you know, walking paths that are well established, that'd be great. So just wondering what that timeline is.
So there is a commitment to build that pathway in the Royal Bay Parks plan, which is part of the development. We are in discussions with the developer right now to confirm those timelines, and hopefully we can build that in tandem with the project and within our permitting structure.
Is there going to be coordination?
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I was just
Karen,
gonna,
sorry.
I was just gonna follow up with, is there
Yeah,
gonna
go
be coordination with the look and feel of the pathway that you guys are doing with the pathway that they're gonna be responsible for doing?
Thank you for the question. Yes, so there will be coordination. We are coordinating with the developer in our initial discussions. And it is different terrain going through sort of that perimeter pathway number 2, that forest area with some wetland and things like that is a little bit different than going out on the peninsula, but we will try to, as much as we can, maintain that design aesthetic all the way through.
Thank you. Karen, your mic is on.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. I'm really, really happy to see you have taken the Green Shores approach, and very happy to see Paul DeGrief is leading the project. I think that bodes well. And I wonder, I didn't see any changes to the road on the Cobourg Peninsula, but toxicity from the roadway is one of the things that impacts sand lance, eggs, and, you know, the habitat and the important migratory species that stop over there. So I just wonder, is there any plan to make any changes to that roadway?
Thank you for the question. So nothing explicit or formal, but however, the additional vegetation and planting and things like that should act as natural filtration and just intrinsically increase the value of that habitat there. Thanks.
Is that good? Who's next? Pamela, you're up.
Thank you. I was just wondering, this kind of goes for both things in a way that we're talking about today, but I couldn't find in there as far as global sea level rise goes. What kind of in the plans? How much has been accounted for?
Thank you for the question. So as part of the body of work that led up to this design, the coastal adaptation has been taken into account. I believe it was the year 2070. The exact it escapes me at the moment. What was the original design was based on that design level, and the pathways and things like that. The elevations are still based on that design level to accommodate that 2070 threshold for sea level rise. That answers your question.
Okay, yeah, I would love to just see the number they're working with, because I had looked up if we don't change what we're doing right now by 2100, we're looking at 7.2 feet. So I just was wondering.
Thanks for the question. There is some reporting behind that, and the coastal design basis, which is a report I believe has been made public before, so I can look into sending that as well. Thanks.
Okay. Carol. Oh, you're gonna push your button again, and then I'll do it from here.
Thank you.
It's ready to go.
Thank you, Ryan. Just 2 questions. In the East Lagoon impact report, it did discuss the 2 major environmental impacts on the lagoon would be, or are right now, off-leash dogs and boating in the lagoon. So in the
plan that we have today. Have those issues been addressed?
Thank you for the question. So boating, not specifically, other than not providing boating amenities specific to attract that activity. The main way we're working to sort of prevent the dogs and things like that is basically concentrating all the users into one area onto the established pathways versus the informal network of paths that's all throughout the lagoon right now, all throughout the peninsula, all the informal pathways that are being worn through and things like that, where basically dogs and people go kind of anywhere. So hopefully by concentrating them in one linear pathway, that improves things as well. And also through the interpretive signage, new signage and whatnot, we're going to be hopefully reinforcing the dogs on leash that's already implemented out there. Thank you.
Thank you. So that would mean that it would be on leash for dogs on both the east side of the road and the west side, which people do not now usually have their dogs on leash on the the east side. So it's the west side and the east side. But the east side, people do not usually now have their dogs on leash. Will they be expected to when the walkway is built?
Currently, our bylaw for the lagoon is on the bird sanctuary side. That's an on leash. And then on the ocean side from the high water mark is also on leash, whereas from the high water mark to the ocean is not enforced as on leash. Is that correct? Yeah. For our bylaw at this point. And so part of this the pathway project and actually coming up in the biodiversity project, it also does mention dog management plan for the lagoon. So that is something that will probably come out of these two projects is a dog management plan, which I think will speak probably Colwood wide, park wise, and that sort of thing. So you could probably see a dog management plan later on after both these are programs are done.
Thank you. I did ask if I could have two questions. Is that all right? And the second question, I might have missed this in the mapping, but the crosswalk or the way to get from the east side to the west side pathway, is that just a crosswalk on the road, or is it elevated? I'm sorry, I couldn't tell.
Thank you for the question. So there's the main sort of crossing for the Maltese pathway, which it switches over about halfway up the peninsula from one side to the other. And it's called the Rifle Rebroom crossing, and that'll be a raised crossing with pedestrian flasher lights. And then additionally, north of there, they believe there's about 8 more crossings that go back and forth. They'll also be raised as well.
Thank you.
Okay, you're good. Thank you. I'm Charlotte this time. No? Get that right.
Thank you, Ryan. And I'm happy to hear that there's going to be some signage, because I believe that education and awareness are the way that we're going to change and improve behavior. And so along with dogs, and dogs leave little presents behind, and human impact is a lot about litter. So I'm curious, this seems like a good opportunity to do two things. One is to incorporate some receptacles that maybe are a bit less prone to seagull invasion and things like that. And also, if there was joint receptacles for refundables, that would go a long way to diverting some of the things from the landfill that we try to do. And the second thing about signage is this also seems like an opportunity to install some interpretive signage. So as people are using the walkway and looking around, what are they seeing? What can we tell them about this area and what is there?
Yeah, thank you for the question and comments there. So First of all, interpretive signage is a component of the project. We're working with Lisa Nature Victoria to look at replacing those large interpretive signs that you see at sort of either end of the project with the big with the roof overhead on the lock blocks there. Redoing those with new content and other interpretive signage throughout. We're also going to be doing different garbage receptacles that are more suitable for the waterfront area. And the receptacles for the returnables is a good suggestion we'll look at incorporating. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question about, is there a start date for the first section? Is there a showcase section starting first that you're going to be going?
We, as I mentioned there, we were planning, we're attempting to do it, do something in the spring where we're going to do a full, do some dune restoration, plant it out with the dune grass and build a section of trail and everything. But unfortunately, due to the archaeological permitting requirements, early discussions indicated we probably could have gotten away with it, or not gotten away, could have made it achievable, but it was just too much work and we would have required permitting to do that. I'd say.
Yeah, sorry, I just missed that. I was going to ask a question about the parking. So right now, I know I drove by the other day, there were 206 cars I counted. It wasn't full, but I think that there's diagonal parking. I see in your diagram here and some parallels mentioned as well. Is that going to continue in a similar fashion as we have now?
Thanks for the question. Yes, it'll be angle and parallel parking all throughout, just depending on how much space there is for parking.
Yes. With the logs defining the limits, etc.
Correct. Yes, it'll be logs delineating the areas and things.
Yeah, and initially I thought in unmarked parking locations like gravel locations, etc. Commonly, if no one's actually assisting with the parking, there's huge gaps, and you could probably get at least another 30–40% cars in that same space. But I did notice the other day that down at bridge end, the cars are packed in like really tight. And I was surprised. So I don't know, maybe the public is learning to self-manage such things. But is there any way to delineate perhaps?
I know on the plans it's shown as nice, neat parking spaces all along, but obviously repainting the gravel. So it's I believe it's every 4 spaces. There's intended to be a log at an angle to sort of to delineate and encourage people to channel into that a little bit better than what they're doing now.
It's great. That's helpful. So any more questions or comments at this point? We do have a staff recommendation on the agenda that we could, everyone, we have a motion.
Yes, it would be that the committee would accept the report for information.
For information. So we need a motion for that though, right? Oh, Karen, sorry. Karen?
Thanks, David. I just wanted to add, as I'm sure you know, there's a process initiated to seek UNESCO urban bioregional status for Greater Victoria. So I think that this plan, as well as the biodiversity strategy, will greatly assist that endeavor. So thanks for your good work.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we need a motion for to accept. Somebody? Anybody? Judy? And so all those in favor? Carried. Moving right along. So we'll move along now to item 5.1. And that was the Colwood or draft biodiversity strategy. Well, maybe feedback. It's opportunity now, Joel, for you to speak. You have a solid 2 minutes, and we might even be lenient if you ask nicely. But there is a button at the base of the microphone stand there. No, they'll do that, but there is a button. There you go.
Sure, great.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm here as a member, as a resident of Colwood. My name is Joel Lessery. I'm also here as someone who has a career in natural areas protection and stewardship, and is a Colwood volunteer. And really the purpose of why I'm here is to speak in support of the biodiversity strategy. I've only been able to review the documents that are on the website, so the framework for the strategy rather than the strategy itself. But I wanted to commend staff and consultants on the quality of the work that was put into the biodiversity, state of biodiversity report and the specific report looking at Esquimalt Lagoon, and then also the framework. And I think the framework sets out some very important principles, making the linkage between biodiversity and climate resilience and ecological functions. And I'm hoping that in the strategy, and one of the reasons I'm here is to learn more about the strategy through your feedback and comments, is to think about to look at the implementation, great principles, and the mentioned, and the devil is in the details as always, and how we're going to implement that, how we can translate the ideas and principles into actions on the ground that can go across the community. And one of the things I'm particularly interested in is what the strategy might say about the opportunities for developers and their qualified environmental professionals to integrate concepts from the strategy into their work. Thank you.
Well, good timing, Joel. Thank you so much for that. And we look forward to hearing more from you. We'll carry on now with the draft biodiversity report and strategy framework with Carolyn Richman, climate planner. Allison Kwan, I see, has joined us online. Welcome, Allison, from Diamond Head Consulting. And they're both here today to provide a brief presentation, and we'll open up for questions from the committee following. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Thanks very much. Thank you, committee members, for having us here today. Allison and I are really excited to bring the strategy to you and to get some feedback. So I think we'll just see if we're ready. Not quite. Yeah. Great, thanks, Heather. Okay, so, okay, this may be the other one. Oh, it is, sorry. It was just slow. Oh, we're going the wrong way. I don't know. Let's get together one go in here. It's not even working at all though. Oh, sorry, everybody. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to take a quick moment just to set the stage a little bit with some background on this project, but primarily we're going to hear from Allison Kwan today. We're happy to have her with us from Diamond Head Consulting. She's going to provide you with an overview of the draft strategy, and then we'll both be happy to answer any questions as the committee discusses any feedback you have. This project is been a priority initiative of the city's climate action plan, and the committee saw this work come at your October 2025 meeting. So just to recap some of the things accomplished in this project so far, we have 2 biodiversity assessment reports giving us a scientific baseline on biodiversity in Colwood. So one of those is the State of Biodiversity report, and the other is the Human Impact Assessment of Esquimalt Lagoon Migratory Bird Sanctuary. And Allison's team worked on that, including all the background research and field work and things like that with the biologists and others on her team. So through the fall, we conducted a variety of processes for public and stakeholder engagement, and we're able to use that feedback as we worked on the development of this draft strategy, as well as workshops and with staff and work across departments here. So for your review today is the draft biodiversity conservation strategy before it goes to council. And I'm pleased to have to introduce Allison Kwan to tell us more about the strategy.
Thank you, Carolyn. Good afternoon, everybody. Just to introduce myself again, my name's Allison, and I'm a professional biologist at Diamond Head Consulting. And we've been working closely with the city and various staff to develop this biodiversity conservation strategy. Next slide, please. So starting off with a high-level overview of the strategy, it begins with an introduction to biodiversity. What is it? Why is it important? And how do we protect and conserve it? From there, it discusses the current state of biodiversity found in Colwood, and it leads into how biodiversity is currently managed in the city, detailing the guidance and direction provided by the city's official community plan, the various bylaws, policies, and plans that work together to protect and enhance biodiversity in Colwood, and the ongoing environmental stewardship led by both local stewardship groups and local First Nations. With an understanding of how Colwood manages biodiversity, the strategy moves into its primary message, establishing a plan and a roadmap for biodiversity conservation into the future. This section also highlights the development of Colwood's own ecological network. From there, the strategy moves into specific actions, establishing a framework to evaluate and monitor biodiversity, and creating a framework for the city to prioritize and build capacity for implementation. Next slide. So this just shows the Colwood ecological network that was developed as part of this strategy. On the screen here, you can see dark green, large areas are habitat hubs. The lighter green, smaller areas are habitat sites. And the lines with the dashed lines on the map there detail connectivity corridors. Next slide. So why is connectivity important? It's a key concept in conservation biology, and it identifies where it's an idea where larger, more connected natural areas are better at supporting biodiversity and function better than smaller, disconnected, and fragmented areas. In an urban environment, connectivity across the landscape not only allows wildlife to access habitat, but it also allows for populations to mix and interbreed. Isolated populations can be genetically unhealthy, whereas connected populations have greater biodiversity, more balanced predator-prey dynamics, and are also at lower risk of becoming extirpated or extinct. Colwood's ecological network identifies 3 components, which I mentioned before: habitat hubs, which are large sites capable of providing interior refuge habitat for species less tolerant of urban influences; habitat sites, which are good, smaller stepping stone areas across the landscape; and connectivity corridors, which link hubs and sites together. Next slide. As a part of the strategy, we also identified a number of potential connectivity opportunities. These potential connectivity areas represent locations across the city where corridors could be created, or existing areas that have some environmental sensitivities that could be enhanced to support greater biodiversity as a whole. Next slide. Moving into the strategy's development, the vision for this strategy is for Colwood to be a leader in climate action and biodiversity conservation, and an engaged and resilient city that values, protects, and restores biodiversity, ecological connectivity, and sustainable relationships with the land for future generations. Next slide. To support this vision, 2 strategy goals have been established. The first is to conserve and increase biodiversity through protection, restoration, enhancement, and monitoring of biodiversity in natural areas to steward healthy, resilient ecosystems and ecosystem services across the landscape. The second is to advance nature-based solutions, where the city will increase the resiliency of natural systems and the community in a changing climate through nature-based solutions and related interventions that are designed to address societal challenges while also supporting biodiversity. Next slide. To meet these two goals, 5 strategic pillars were established: protect, restore, and enhance biodiversity, establish an ecological network, planning and policy integration, community stewardship and partnerships, and monitor and adapt. Under each strategic pillar are a set of objectives and specific actions to achieve the strategy's goals and support the vision. In total, there are 103 actions across 5 strategic pillars. Next slide. The effectiveness of conservation and restoration actions ultimately can't be understood without assessing and monitoring for biodiversity. For this strategy, we also developed a detailed guide for monitoring, which includes performance objectives, indicators, and monitoring metrics and measures. As a part of this monitoring and implementation, 14 actions were identified as top priorities for the city to focus on, and 9 actions were also identified as already being underway and could be further supported and expanded upon. Next slide. Through this process, the public was engaged throughout the entire strategy development. Engagement highlights include the virtual and in-person open house surrounding the biodiversity celebration event, a public survey, and stakeholder focus group workshops. Staff were also involved in the strategy development through 2 staff workshops, and all feedback provided by the public and staff were incorporated into the strategy. Next. To summarize, the draft biodiversity conservation strategy is a detailed and comprehensive roadmap that guides the city on how to protect, restore, and enhance biodiversity into the future. A key component of the strategy is the development of the Colwood ecological network, which connects ecosystems, protects and restores biodiversity, and increases ecosystem resilience on a citywide scale. The strategy provides a monitoring framework and adaptive management as the strategy is implemented. The goal is to guide Colwood to be a leader in climate action and biodiversity conservation. And with that, I'll pass it back to Carolyn.
Thanks, Allison. So just to wrap up, the next steps for the draft strategy are as we've presented to this committee. The draft strategy will be presented to the Waterfront Stewardship Committee for their feedback, and we'll consider any refinements that might be needed. And the goal is to deliver the draft strategy to Council on May 11th. So again, just really want to thank you for your time. And I know that this is a significant document to have a look at. So really appreciate all of your time on this. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Carolyn. And thank you, Allison, for running through the report with us. The committee's asked to provide feedback at this time. To support this process, our Deputy Corporate Officer, Heather, who you've met, will be taking notes throughout this discussion. When that conversation is complete, I think the intention here is, just have to turn my page. Right, so the summary of our feedback will be compiled and shared with the committee for review. So Heather will be taking notes, she'll put a bullet form, put it up for us. If there's any specific points then during the conversation, you can sort of highlight it. Don't worry too much about that part. Heather will also do some screening, and then we can vote on that recommendation at that time. So at this point, we can open up for discussion. I think Judy or maybe we got Karen on the list. Karen's first. And just a point of functioning here, the light is red, your mic is hot, so you're open. If you would like to follow up the comment, just don't turn the mic off until you're finished. That way we don't have to keep restarting it. So just a technical thing. Okay, Karen, please
Thanks,
go ahead.
David. Thanks, Carolyn. I can't say enough positive things about this strategy. Like, it's amazing. And I think all of us here want to see increasing leadership in climate action and biodiversity conservation. So 100% behind that. I have just a few more comments and then some specific suggestions. You know, I'm looking at the, well, I want to say you did such a comprehensive job. So well done, Allison, too. And starting with, you know, federal legislation like species at risk and then funneling down to local actions. I'm so happy to see the parts about collaboration with Royal Roads University and working with neighboring municipalities on nature-based solutions. I just want to go back to the land acknowledgement. In particular, the line that says we endeavor to walk softly on these ancestral lands and to work together for a more just and sustainable future. I really believe that, and I know you really believe that. And I would like to see, I guess, less disconnect between what we see in Colwood and those words, those beautiful words. And, you know, the elephant in the room is the rapid pace and breadth of development. And I see a real mismatch, a real disconnect between the plans we have, like climate action, this beautiful strategy, the Waterfront stewardship plan, and then photos that you have in your report, like the beachlands. I mean, it's just kind of a nightmare moonscape right now. So I would like to see, and I'm getting now to my more specific recommendations. Just to say, first of all, that while I think all the 5 pillars are great, I really see the 2 key as number 1 was protect, restore, and enhance biodiversity. Number 1 for sure. And then number 3, embed biodiversity in planning, policy, and operations. I think that is so critical. And I see the other 3 actually as, you know, connected to those 2. But so the strategy is very, in a perfect world, we would have the strategy in place, but of course, that's not the case. And here we are. And so one of the, Joel alluded to opportunities for developers to participate in enhancing, protecting, conserving, and enhancing biodiversity in Colwood. But I would go a step further and say they have, you know, as part of building here, there should be an obligation. I think mayor and council can do more to ensure that development is in the public interest. It should come first. So that was my big ask is like maybe have developers pay a promise bond when they seek rezoning or get permits so that they will be held accountable to remove the invasive species that grow on their site when the soil is disturbed. As you know, we have lots of volunteers in Colwood who are very keen and motivated to remove invasive species, and it's a threat to biodiversity. But in my mind, the biggest threat comes from the soil disturbance caused by development. So I'd like to see developers contribute more, whether that's hiring green teams to assist the Colwood volunteers or providing support or financing to the volunteers themselves. Just a couple other things I thought you might include. I really like the public engagement. And I'm hoping for lots of education, as Charlotte said. And I think if there was an opportunity to increase public awareness on the critical importance and the link between biodiversity conservation and food security, that would be very helpful. And perhaps, you know, one of the ways of doing that is by encouraging pollinator pathways in on residential properties. Because when I look at that beautiful map and I see all that green at Royal Roads and Fort Rod Hill, and it's so great that, you know, those areas will be conserved. It would be nice to see more green all throughout Colwood. So pollinator pathways, also perhaps boulevard gardening. The city of Victoria has a terrific policy on boulevard gardens. And maybe you could invite residents to help increase tree canopy by providing free seedlings, maybe some native plants. I think, you know, some local nurseries might help with that. And it could be done last week in September for National Forest Week. But I think lastly, I think education is critical to the success of this strategy, and creating ecological awareness within our community of everything they do. And so my last point is about synthetic lawns. So I would hope that there could be some education on that. We know that bans are not very popular, so that's unlikely to happen. But I even see areas where residents have replaced the boulevard with a synthetic lawn. So, you know, maybe just some education and discouragement, letting people know that this is a negative impact on biodiversity. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. There's always time, or I shouldn't say there's always time. There may be time to loop back and add further elements, or a comment. We'll carry on here and give people a chance. So I think Judy, you're up next, please.
Yeah, I am really happy to see the draft strategy, and I know we've worked on it, or we've commented on it before, and it's been a long process. It's been great. I'm concerned that we don't lose momentum on this, and so I think the implementation is an important aspect. And I would like to recommend that for council that they, when they accept this, which I'm assuming they will accept this, and immediately direct staff to make the pertinent changes to the bylaws which are mentioned. There's a lot of references to changing various bylaws in the first protect section, and also in the implementation section. And I think that would be the first thing to do, is to go through all of those bylaws and see which ones can be easily changed and implemented, like right away. The part on ecological corridors, I was really happy to see that. I think it's short on specifics of implementation, but because we have like nothing right now, I can see that even just to lay groundwork is huge. So thanks for that. I do have one suggestion on ecological corridors, and on that section, a suggestion for public works. In any time, like the habit is to just, when you finish a project, to throw down grass seed. And I would say one of the first things to change on that is to say that's kind of the last option, and to think of any other things you could do other than throw down grass seed. Section page 53, On parks, I'm really happy to see an inclusion or a movement away from having nature parks and having not nature parks. Even in manicured parks, there are a lot of things you can do to integrate natural areas, and so that was a good addition. And then in the actions, there was just two little comments. I had the salmonid habitat. I wasn't sure where that came from or what you had in mind for it. Because the only place I know now is in Royal Roads, where there's salmon habitat, and then Bee Creek has trout, which has had a lot of restoration. So I'm not sure what that referred to. And then there was a reference to developing a naturescape program for Colwood, and I would say on that there are a lot of programs out there, and there's really no need to reinvent the wheel. But it would be great to have a lot of public education and a naturescape program adopted. Those were my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Judy. I'll just carry on, or yeah. Who's next? Is it Chris or? Oh, okay. Excuse me. Here you're on now. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'd just like to echo the comments of previous speakers. Thank you very much for the beautiful report. It really made me feel very proud to live here, actually. It's full of wise intent and promising policies. So thank you very much. I don't think there's anything that I could quibble with in the report. I think it's kind of like motherhood statements. There's nothing to argue against. And why would anybody, like people on this committee, argue against biodiversity? But I have thought of a couple of things that perhaps I'd like to see included. And forgive me if this isn't the place, but I'd like to pick up on one thing that I think Karen was referring to in terms of to what extent this will apply to developers. And I'd like to just comment, really just an observation of something that really saddens me in Colwood, which is when developers are given permits and then clear cut the land and then nothing happens for long periods of time. And I think we can all think of neighborhoods where this has happened. And frankly, I'm just amazed that that's okay and that it goes, as far as I know, with no repercussions. It's very obvious that when land is clear cut for development, it's a massive hit to biodiversity. That's a given. And to a large extent, that's something we accept if it's in the cause of needed infrastructure. But when it just seems to be to stake a claim so that at some point down the road development can happen, I'm very uncomfortable with that. And beyond the loss of biodiversity, which is an immediate concern, I also think it's really bad for the optics of the city. And it's very bad for our attempts to try and engage public interest and buy-in to the policies that you have so well described here. I mean, I'll give you a real quick example from a strata, my own strata, where we went through the hoops of the tree cutting bylaws. And as you'd expect with a group of people, there were some naysayers. We did it and we paid the money and we're waiting to get the money back when the trees grow. But of course, the naysayers point across the road and say, why do we have to do this when that land was clear cut and nobody had to do anything? So I just would like to put the question out there, what can be done to close the gap between the clear cutting and the development? Because it seems to me unless development happens in a very short time after clear cutting, then there should be a delay in the clearing of the land. And I don't know if that can be incorporated into the strategy, but I would love to see change in that in Colwood.
I interrupt.
Yeah.
You may have more, and I don't want to interrupt, except that perhaps someone could speak to that notion of the clear cutting and permitting. We have a bylaw. I know that we added that maybe last year.
That has changed, yes.
Yeah.
We no longer do that.
So could you speak to that just for a minute about, I know it's not really your look,
Essentially, I can speak to it that the process in which a developer would be able to get a tree permit before a building permit. I'm looking over our bylaw and building guy, is no longer in practice. So they would need to have an actual approved building permit before they could do their clear cutting.
As I understand, the thinking there is that pulling the building permit is not only a certain amount, a level of planning, but it's also expensive. So they pull the permit only when the building permit, only when they're ready to build. Therefore, the tree cutting can't happen until that point. And that's the way the bylaw is now written. We changed that, I think, last year. So the clear cuts you've seen, they did happen, but I believe that can't happen now or wouldn't. Am I right about, do you want to speak to that? That's great, Byron. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the Parks and Environment Committee. I was trying to dig up my phone there a moment ago. The method is done through our planning department, actually, to prevent this from happening. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull it up quick enough to be able to articulate that. But we do have measures in place now to prevent that from happening. What I suggest is we could take this back, note it, and then inform the committee how that's done. I just wasn't able to dig it up in time.
Fair enough. And so I'm speaking, Heather, do you have something?
I'd be happy to follow up with the committee as well. I know right in front of council currently, the planning is changing the way that they process rezoning applications so that council is having to look at what a developer is going to put in there and make it a part of an agreement. So I'd be happy to send an email and include Murray and Jason in so that you get the accurate information. Yeah, our practices have changed quite a bit.
Encouraging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there
Yes.
any comeback on the current vacant cleared lands that are waiting for development?
I'm not sure that there's anything you can't entice anyone to build. I mean, that will happen as the market happens. So unfortunately, we talk a lot about on the VMP, that large open clear cut that sits. And that's what we attempted to prevent last year when we changed the bylaw. And that shouldn't be able to happen. There may be some selective logging if they need to do SAMPA surveys, hydrological surveys or such, and they need to get their big equipment, drilling equipment to the site, but rather than clear cutting everything, they can just build a pathway or a roadway needed in those circumstances. That's how I understand it now. So I think you'll be getting more better answers at some point. Anyway, it's a point well taken, and I carry on, please. I didn't mean to stop you, other than to speak to that.
I'm delighted there was some feedback actually. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Thank you very much. No, just one other quick point that perhaps could be in the strategy. Karen mentioned it. I have a slightly more draconian approach. Karen said bans are not popular. I don't care if they're popular. I'm talking about plastic grass. Can we not just ban it? I mean, other municipalities have banned pesticides. I could go on at length about why I don't think there should be plastic grass in Colwood, but I don't think you need education on that. It's fairly clear. It flies in the face of everything that's in this report. I think it's an awfully sad thing for little children who are close to the ground to see as they're learning to walk and stroll through the town. And it's completely unnecessary. We live in a rainforest and it gets really dry in the summer. And there are so many things wrong with it, whether it's microplastics or the garbage that doesn't break down when it's dropped on it. It's a Langford problem. Please don't let it be a Colwood problem.
Thank you. I don't know, Gord, if you want to speak to that quickly as well. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. It is currently not an approved boulevard treatment in Colwood. It's council direction that that is not an approved boulevard treatment. So if it is put into a boulevard, they can't get a resident would not be able to get a permit to put in a synthetic grass. The only approved treatment would be grass or meadow or plant material.
Thank you, Gord.
And after that, it's residents' choice, even though pesticides
well, I believe you're talking about the boulevard.
The boulevards, yes.
City property.
City property is, we do not approve synthetic grass for any city property. On private property, it is up to the owner of the property.
Okay, I'm pushing. That can't be changed, question mark?
Well, I'm sure you could try.
I would.
Yeah, I mean, on private property, I think it would be hard for us to dictate what happens on private property. But definitely on city property, we have control over what the treatment is for landscape.
Well, thanks. I mean, I'm glad that's clear, but I still think you could go further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Byron, I see you.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, I did dig up a bit of an explanation on how we have a bit of a tool in place now to prevent the clearing from happening. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to elaborate on it beyond this. So if the committee would like a bit more, let me know. But it was the development permit guidelines that changed that gave us the ability to prevent clearing within environmental DP areas prior to BP review. So that is what we changed, stemming from the areas that we think of. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to elaborate on it more than that. But if the committee would like more detail, please reach out to our corporate team.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if. Yeah, thank you, Heather. Right, and then we can move on from there. Okay. All right, you're all done? Okay, cool. Well, thank you for that. And thank you, Byron. We have now Kimberly or Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte, please. Oops, you have to. Okay, how do I do this? There, it's on now.
Okay. Thank you, Carolyn and Allison. I really enjoyed looking through your report. I thought it was well done and very informative. And along with a couple of my colleagues, I just want to comment on the balance between development and biodiversity. And especially since in municipalities like Colwood, not everything is under our control. We have the provincial mandates to deal with. And so development is, well, it's a concern for all of us, I think. So I'm just curious, and you might not be able to answer this, but how we plan to balance that, the ongoing development, the accelerated development with the plans for biodiversity and protecting the areas that we have.
Carolyn, please.
Thank you very much for the question. I wonder if it might be a good point in time for actually Allison to maybe comment on some of the actions that have been developed to try to reinforce protection. Is that okay with you, Allison?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, we have an entire strategic pillar that revolves around embedding biodiversity conservation ideas into municipal policy, planning, and operations. Part of that is attempting and is specific actions highlighting how nature-friendly designs can be implemented into the development permit process. Some things that we've recommended are encouraging bird-friendly window glazing, adopting minimizing lighting that might be directed at natural areas, which will impact wildlife, encouraging the use of natural landscaping, specifically native plants over ornamental non-native species, implementing multi-layer vegetation structure in the planting. So rather than just implementing and planting trees, encouraging developers to use a variety of different heights of species, herbaceous species, shrubs, trees, and as well as supporting and encouraging the use of some green infrastructure or such as green roofs and green walls. So those are some of the example actions that we have in the policy within that strategic pillar that tries to get at balancing biodiversity while understanding that development is going full steam ahead and that there are ways to balance those ideals with and have some more nature-friendly developments.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you. Carol Brown, please. Nope, you're on. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Yeah, you don't need to hit it the second time. Where did you go? Now you got to turn your light on. Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn and Allison. I am extremely pleased with the biodiversity conservation report. It does, as the other speakers have mentioned, it is a wonderful step forward, and I think we've done some great things in the past, and I think this brings some of the things we've already done and things that we're going to try to do. I am so pleased. I was and I also really appreciate the comments made by Karen and all of the people that have spoken, and I see real value in those comments. I think there's real concern about development, and I think we're trying to address that. And the steps that Allison just mentioned about bird-friendly windows, dark skies, natural landscaping, green roofs, pervious surfaces, native plants and soils. These are all such good steps forward. I am extremely pleased. I do have a recommendation, and it's based on the implementation and taking action part of the plan. It's to do with the strategy of involving community stewardship and networking. And it's just a recommendation based on a few of the targeted actions, such as EC8, encouraging and motivating landowners to protect, et cetera, PR2, protecting water quality, PR3, targeting restoration of aquatic habitats where possible, PR14 that seeks to develop a citywide invasive strategy of management. These are all such good points. And my recommendation is to, and this is mainly based on the fact that Colwood Lake and Colwood Creek are involved, as well as Bee Creek. But here's the recommendation. That the city of Colwood initiates a formal invitation to Royal Roads University, and I know they have been mentioned, but this next steward has not. So the city of Colwood initiates a formal invitation to Royal Roads University and Royal Colwood Golf Course or Club to join the city of Colwood's group of stewardship partners in promoting the 5 strategic pillars of the biodiversity conservation strategy by helping to build the Colwood ecological network throughout the city. So to formally invite them to be part of it. I also have one other comment, but I don't want to take too much of the floor. Maybe I'll wait and let I don't mind waiting and letting Karen speak here. That's fine. Or
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. All right. This one is more like a motion. And it is based on the fact that we have a lot here in the strategy that we would like to accomplish. But the reality is we know that funds through budgeting and grants are not maybe what we would like to have them be. And so this is let it be considered an opportunity to look into other ways of funding to achieve some of the goals that we've set out in the strategy. So in regards to looking for suggested target actions to promote land acquisition, because this has been brought up. Colwood has still some forested natural areas left. But we all know that based on market principles, these forested areas could be snatched up rather quickly, or they may sit for a while. But for us to be able to acquire that land and possibly create parks or even corridors to link our ecological network, we need to be able to purchase some of this land, which we all know budgets are tight. And so here is my motion. Colwood initiate a voluntary land acquisition levy to be included in the 2026 municipal property tax notice as a completely voluntary contribution to the Colwood Ecological Network. This voluntary tax or levy would offer a philanthropic opportunity for residents to assist in parkland acquisition at an amount entirely of their choosing. The entire fund will be utilized for parkland acquisition by July 1st, 2028, or returned to the donor. It is an opportunity for philanthropic donations from people in our community who truly value the opportunity to purchase this limited natural land that is, some of it is for sale today, and preserve it for the future of future residents of Colwood. And we just don't know who's out there who just might like to do that on a voluntary basis. Stranger things have happened. So I would like to put that motion forward and see if there is any appetite for a seconder and maybe approval.
Well, I think we can certainly add that to Heather's items that is going to be presented with the overall results from this meeting, because the committee, pardon me? Yeah.
Thank you.
And they'll come in with the report at the end of the meeting. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm just grinding through that little idea in my head. Okay, who's next on the list here? Karen. Karen, please.
Thanks, David. And Allison, great idea, Carol. And I want to thank Catherine for her strong words on synthetic grass. And Allison, you mentioned several really positive recommendations for builders. Bird safe windows, that's fantastic to hear. I think many of us are really concerned about the loss of natural assets before we have an opportunity to implement this conservation strategy. And I'll give a specific example. There are many, but this is one close to where I live. There is a development proposal for 4 6-story condos, very close to what may be a floodplain. I know there's a difference of opinion on that, but lots of people have photographs of a lot of water sitting on close to that area. And there's 4 identified peat bogs. Now, all waterways, as Carolyn, as everyone knows, are great carbon sequestration, nature-based solutions. And so there, yes, there's pressure from the provincial government to meet housing targets. There's, I think Colwood has exceeded them by like 9 times the amount that was required. So I don't know that you can do this in the conservation strategy, but I would love to see a pause on all future development for a 6-month period to allow the conservation strategy to be implemented and embedded in planning, policy, and operations.
Thank you very much. And the mic is hot for whoever wants to jump in there. Kimberly, please.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you, Carolyn, for the biodiversity conservation strategy. It is very promising, and I hope that all these wonderful things that are written down are actually something that we can see implemented and come to fruition. One of the things I was concerned about and I know I see it throughout, but just listed in the 5 strategies, I know it's within some of the objectives, but I think really something that kind of has been mentioned a little bit, but I think is really important is the education piece. The education of both the developers, letting them know, we need to see, native plants, and we don't want to, and also about the clear cutting and the bylaw. Very happy that that's, been changed. But education for them, but also education for the public so that, things like the synthetic grasses, when parents know that, when they understand what's in there and I think the more we can educate our public and make them aware. So, I know it's kind of embedded within, but I really would like to see education somewhere within the strategies, whether or not maybe it could be with strategy number 4 in supporting community stewardship and partnership and educating the public on the biodiversity conservation. I think there is we just have to raise that that is very, very important to any of this work, whether it's educating people on their pets and keeping them on leash, and why it is that we want them to keep their pets on leash, because oftentimes they'll look at it as something that they're not allowed to do, and that kind of comes across as a negative. But if they understand what's being protected and why it needs to be protected, I think that could really help us to be able to roll this out more effectively. I'd love to see that education also extend to the schools, to working with the teachers and making sure that they understand what's in this biodiversity conservation strategy, and we get that out to the young people, so that as they learn and grow, they understand the environment that they're working in. So that's just my suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Pamela, please.
Thank you. I just want to, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth, what everybody's been saying here in the room. So, thank you so much for putting this plan together. A little off topic was back to the grass. I feel like if there's a will, there's a way. If we can have a bylaw about whether or not somebody can pull a tree from their private property, then maybe perhaps we can ban the grass. But I also agree about the negativity component and really educating people as to why. So thank you, Kimberly, for that. And thank you, Carol, for your wonderful motions there. My question, I don't mean to, I guess, well, a few things. When I was reading this, the first thought I had was, did the development committee see this as well? Are they being shown this? So I guess that would be one question I have. And then the other question is, when making this plan, going back to sea level rise, is there thought being put of, should we get the money to actually implement these things? Are we going to focus on what we can save? Because when I have looked at the sea level maps, and I don't mean to be cynical or sound depressing, but I don't, worst case scenario planning, if there is a 7-foot, sea level rise, Esquimalt Lagoon is gone. It's all underwater. So are those kind of things being taken into consideration in terms of what will be funded and what can we actually save versus what's not going to be there in 50 years?
Thank you. Anything else that you want to? You're good. Okay.
Those are just my questions.
Did you want to speak to those at all? At this time, go ahead if you like.
Sorry, maybe I was writing down your points, but maybe you can clarify the question for me. Sorry.
Question number one, has the development committee seen this plan?
We reviewed the engagement strategy with the CAO, and he gave us recommendations for where we would take it, and that was not on that list. So certainly council um, could make further recommendations on that, but not at this time.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I would say we did widely communicate broadly across the community and stakeholders and whatnot on this, and any opportunities that we saw to go and present and speak to folks that were interested in it, we certainly did. Um, and yeah, so we were asked to, yeah, clarified to go to these two committees by council.
Yeah, and once the strategy is implemented and it becomes part of the planning process, then the developers see it at that point if they are not indeed even listening to public events. So they might be listening to this committee meeting right now. And in my experience, some of the developers, the ones that have been working in the area for years typically, do keep an ear on what's going on with committee talk and so on. It's not official, but eventually they do have to confront and comply with what's in place. And when they put in their DP, they tend to talk to planning a lot, and the staff then are at the point where they can make sure that the intentions go through. Yeah. Thank you. You have another question? Okay. Okay.
And the second part was, has sea level rise been taken into consideration in terms of especially, I saw a lot of monitoring, Esquimalt Lagoon type things, but is there any hope for it? Or is that, is it being taken into consideration in the planning and the spending that it might be underwater?
Thank you for the question. Certainly, when part of that scenario, the sea level rises, we're trying to do our very best to minimize those long-term impacts. So while we can look at what the worst case scenarios are, we can also work really hard to not get there. But certainly we've looked at, all of our climate risks and whatnot in conjunction with this. But maybe Allison, as a kind of an outside observer, any other comments specific to that?
Yeah, part of this strategy was also identifying areas that where marine protection and shoreline protection could be incorporated into policy and planning at the city. And part of that is incorporating best management practices for the marine environment, trying to remove engineered structures where they can, and incorporating more green shores approaches into protecting the shoreline and having it remain natural, and those considerations with the threats.
Thank you. You're good. Judy. There you go.
Yeah,
You're on.
I was just going to mention Peninsula Streams as being in the stewardship group in Colwood. There's a couple of places where other groups are mentioned, and I think Peninsula Streams would be good to add to that list.
Thank you, Judy. They are on our list, and if they're not in there, I'll double check that because I know there's, interest and value there for sure.
Not so.
Make sure they're in our Rolodex. Yeah. Good. Thanks, Judy, for that. Karen.
Carolyn, I'm wondering, I think you said this will go to Mayor and Council May 11th, council meeting?
Yes, that goes to the Waterfront Stewardship Committee next, and then the hope is that then it will be in a good place to go to council for May 11th.
And I think you've heard from all of us here the urgency with which we'd like to see it implemented. Do you have any timeline on implementation?
Thanks for that question. It's we don't have timelines right now because it's on everything. Certainly on some of the initial activities, but it's going to depend on resources and us staff coming back to council when and if it's adopted to propose what we, will be able to, resource staff and the city to do. So we definitely tried to increase options in the implementation section to provide ways that we can build capacity over time, because these are challenging times to build capacity in places where we don't have it. But we trying to think very creatively, and also mainstreaming and integrating this into the work that's already being done across departments and whatnot is really important. So that we, as part of that capacity comes from, that it is integrated in what we already do. So hopefully we can, work with council on, resourcing and timelines once we have some clear direction. Thank you.
And just to say, for the benefit of perhaps any council members listening, that whatever the costs are, and you've said in your strategy that minimal to begin with, the costs of doing nothing are far higher. As Pamela mentioned, with sea level rise, the best thing we can do is start, really accelerate climate action and help to mitigate the effects of both climate change and the loss of nature.
Thank you. And I'm certainly listening, and I understand once the council has an opportunity to endorse this strategy, and you can write letters to your local councillors and mayor and encourage them to support that action, because there's no obligation to implement anything. It comes down to a council meeting, which hopefully will come before long. By that I mean before summer break, where it's made its way to the Waterfront Committee, Stewardship Committee, and then also then to council. So we're early April. We're looking for, hopefully within the next couple of months for sure, that we have this opportunity to deal with it. And I can assure you, behind the scenes, every opportunity, mention these things in the background, and sometimes I wonder where or how important those words are, because it can feel very much like you're barking up a tree or chasing ghosts. But generally the issue of climate and environment and so on is very important, and I think it's very exciting at this point, from my perspective, to see this come to this point, and to be able to have the honor of chairing a meeting for this particular item is, for me, it's a high point of my 3.5 years so far. And I'm looking forward to being able to take the energy from this room and the ideas that Heather's been recording, and we can vote on all of that, and we can send that forward, that packet of information. We're not making decisions here. We're merely recommending to council various items, and that is the work we do, and that's a very positive thing. So if you're talking about implementation, this has already started, because this is part of the process. This is the beginning of implementation, if you will, in a kind of a very vague, high level way. So thank you for all of that. I don't see any more lights at the time, and it would come, maybe it's a good time to think about looking at the notes that Heather's been feverishly working at there.
So if I can, I've kind of broken it down into 4 separate motions, or I also put them all kind of in one bulleted motion for you to consider. It just is up to the committee, and I can leave this first one up, and we can go through the 4 slides, and you can kind of get an idea of what I'm thinking.
I wouldn't mind doing it all together. I have a feeling that we would, as conversation went, tend to agree to the package. If anyone would like, we can submit much.
It was a fulsome discussion.
We've done a fabulous job of capturing a lot of. If everybody can take a quick look, we'll give them a couple minutes to do that. Can you scroll it up a tiny bit to catch the bottom? Yeah. Oh. Oh. Oh, yeah. Pamela, we'd like to. Sure.
Would it be okay with everybody to add, taking into consideration sea level rise when exploring fund allocations for this?
Thank you.
Davon. Ryan has already sent the report to me that I would follow up with the committee on where they came to their numbers from that 2070 report, I believe it is, that I'll send out. You'd still like to, can you articulate a little bit better what you'd like to see added to here?
No, you need to be the mic. You need to be on the mic. So the lot to read. We can move forward then at some point. Yeah. Thank you. At this point, I would, we do have an opportunity to make a motion, which would read such that the Parks and Environment Committee receive the draft biodiversity conservation strategy and provide the following feedback for staff prior to council delivery. Then Carolyn will receive this and see if she's in the room. So this will not be new information for her. She will receive it. This will be either addended or added or in some way incorporated into records so that then the Parks and Environment Committee can recommend to council that we endorse the council endorse the biodiversity conservation strategy and direct the staff to use this strategy as a guiding document for implementation.
Correct. And then this motion, as you see right in front of you, will also be on mayor and council's agenda. So it won't get buried underneath in minutes. It'll be right in the item when Carolyn brings it, along with the waterfront stewardships that they're doing later this month, somewhat similar to this.
And that's a very important point. Carolyn? Yeah, that's fine. That's Carolyn.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm just wondering if there's anything in here that asks for clarification that we could give today potentially, such as the salmonid habitat protection. And I'm also wondering if the note about encourage exploration of additional external funding, which is in our implementation section, if there was something further to what we already have in there. Yeah, sorry, just hoping to make sure that I'm clear as well on what those points are.
I believe the extra funding was Ms. Brown's comment about the exploring a levy. So which is just that whole point is basically her motion.
Okay, I saw the levy in the third bullet, and the first bullet says encourage exploration of additional and external funding opportunities, which is in there. So, so the levy is separate on the third bullet. That was.
Okay, is that good? Okay. So that would call for a motion at this point then, for anyone who is willing to make it. Karen, we'll take Karen. You don't get to be a seconder. We don't need seconders with committee motions, but I'm always disappointed when that comes up because I'm usually slow on that. Anyway, and any further comments or discussion at this point? Till I call the question. I will call the question then. All those in favor? Again, unanimous. It's carried. And there we go. And I want to thank Heather for her remarkable job of capturing the conversation. It's a little bit unique in my experience with committee work that this is the way to do it. And I think it satisfied a lot of your committee's concerns about your word getting through a meaningful way. And so I applaud staff for having pursued this. It's a bit of a job to get this all worked out. And thank you again, Carolyn, Gord, of course, and the whole, back in the corner. Is that Annalise? Sorry, you've been working their way too, so thank you also. At this point, I guess I can just close the meeting, right? I adjourn the meeting. Thank you.